This line wasn't whispered in devotion or spoken to a living partner. It was said by a man kneeling beside the dead body of his wife, a young girl who had just thrown herself from a window. It comes from Dostoevsky's haunting novella, The Meek One, a story in which the narrator, a pawnbroker, lays out, detail by detail, exactly how a narcissist destroys the person they claim to love. This man, who controlled her money, her silence, her choices, her hopes, and finally her will to live, truly believed he was the victim. He once said, "She will see herself later on that it was generosity on my part. And when she does realize it one day, she will appreciate me 10 times as much." He convinced himself that the pain he inflicted was kindness, that his cruelty was sacrifice, that one day she would fall at his feet and thank him. But how did he do it? Why did he do it? And perhaps the most disturbing question of all, how did he justify it all the way up to the moment she took her life? Because this story is not just about him or her. It's about every relationship where love is replaced by control, where care becomes domination, where one person slowly erases another. It's about the psychology of narcissists and the people they choose. So let's get into it before someone else turns us into Nastasia, or before we become that someone. From the beginning, the pawnbroker cloaks his self-interest in soft gestures, telling the girl, "It is you who are conferring a favor on me, and not I on you." What looks like humility is actually bait meant to make her feel fortunate, even indebted. As Shahida Arabi notes, narcissists are like parasites. They feed off your energy, your kindness, your need to be understood. His early attentiveness works the same way. Every polite word, every display of concern is calculated to lower her guard. He openly admits he shaped his behavior with a purpose, assuring her she need not fear hunger while warning that fine clothes, theaters, and balls are out of the question. Later on, when I had attained my object, possibly. Even kindness is framed as something she owes him for. Dr. Les Carter puts it plainly, narcissists are great at showing love, as long as it's on their terms. He furthers this control by pretending to confess his flaws, calling himself not particularly talented, a cheap egoist, yet reciting these faults with a smugness that both unsettles and impresses her. He casts himself as a misunderstood martyr. Try a different kind of generosity, the kind that doesn't bring you a scrap of fame, exhibited before the whole world as a blackguard, while you are really the most honest man of them all. His cruelty is recast as noble discipline, a warped logic where his harshness becomes heroism and generosity. Psychologists warn that narcissists will destroy your reality to validate their lies, a pattern he executes with precision. Once married, he isolates her through silence. He recalls, "We went to the theater in silence, and we came back in silence. At first there were no quarrels, but just silence." He withholds affection deliberately, making her always used to watch me furtively. This stonewalling keeps her unsteady and dependent. As one expert observes, narcissists keep you off balance to maintain control. Money becomes another weapon. He restricts her to 1 ruble a day and no more. "I must have 30,000 in 3 years, disguising domination as thrift." Even when he adds 30 kopecks, it is only to appear generous. When she resists, he mocks her for sniffing at our poverty, insisting he himself never stinted. It was just economy. There was no question of poverty at all. His finances revolve around one goal, cementing her dependence. As Darlene Lancer writes, "With a narcissist, it's never about you. It's always about them." The pawnbroker's cruelty emerges from an unyielding pride and a relentless desire for total control. From the beginning, he insists on all or nothing in the relationship. "I always wanted all or nothing, And it is just because I never compromise where my own happiness is concerned, just because I wanted everything that I was forced to act as I did that time. In his mind, love cannot exist partially. It must be complete, total adoration, or absolute rejection. His possessiveness transforms devotion into domination. When she hesitates between his proposal and that of another suitor, he resents her indecision. Once she consents, he reflects, she was proud? Well, I thought, I like them proud. Proud women are particularly good when you're no longer in doubt about your power over them. His satisfaction in power over them exposes that his love depends entirely on domination. He craves complete submission as proof of devotion. He frames cruelty as a form of moral heroism. Lecturing her on the limits of ordinary generosity, he declares, if cheap generosity is easy, try a different kind of generosity, the really heroic kind, the kind that demands great sacrifices, in which you, a man of shining virtue, are exhibited before the whole world as a blackguard, while you are really the most honest man of them all. He insists, in my life, I have done nothing but bear that cross, equating her suffering with his own nobility. Poverty, silence, and humiliation become, in his mind, heroic proof of self-sacrifice. Even after her death, he mourns, you don't know what a paradise I should have built for you, presenting tragedy as his own misfortune rather than the consequence of his cruelty. Beneath his arrogance lies a history of shame. He recalls being cast out by the whole world, and no one knows it, and admits, I hated it all my life. I was revenging myself on society. His cruelty toward her serves as preemptive retaliation. By shaming her before she can challenge him, he shields himself from humiliation. He revels in inequality, confessing, it fascinated me, that feeling of inequality. Yes, it's delightful, very delightful. The age and social gap intensify this thrill, reinforcing his sense of invulnerability. Each time he diminishes her, his fragile self-esteem grows behind the mask of grandiosity. The narrator openly acknowledges the allure of dominance, that I was 41 and she was only 16. That fascinated me, that feeling of inequality. He takes pleasure in controlling someone young and defenseless, interpreting it as personal triumph. Even as he references literary ideals and notions of honor, there is a private delight in his total power over her. Politeness and occasional generosity only mask a deep-seated drive to dominate. The pawnbroker frames his own suffering as justification for the pain he inflicts on others, casting himself as a perpetual victim. In his logic, personal pain equates to virtue, and the endurance of suffering becomes a badge of moral authority. He fantasizes that one day she will recognize and value his endurance, recasting cruelty and deprivation as acts of supreme generosity. He envisions himself as a misunderstood hero, a tragic figure who sacrifices for love while remaining oblivious to the suffering he causes. Her death is attributed not to his actions, but to dark insensibility, while he casts himself as the lonely, wronged soul. People are alone in the world. Silence, that's what the earth is. Even when glimpses of self-awareness appear, he frames them as tragedy or madness rather than wrongdoing. It's mad. Mad. That's where real madness lies. I had tortured her till she could stand it no longer. He acknowledges the extremity of his actions but attributes them to circumstance and personal isolation, never admitting true fault. When the object of a narcissist's obsession stops complying and caring, the fragile world of control begins to collapse. In A Gentle Creature, the young wife's emotional withdrawal shatters the pawnbroker's dominance. As she refuses to go to the theater and grows defiant, he becomes colder. That gentle face was getting more and more insolent, and I grew more and more silent. Each small act of rebellion challenges his illusion of absolute power, and he admits, I observed it carefully. Believe it or not, I was becoming loathsome to her. He feels threatened only when she ceases to perform the role of the submissive wife. Her detachment provokes panic and disorientation. Her indifference pierces his constructed reality. When she confronts him with, "Look into your heart. You have done wrong. I have suffered," he is thrown into chaos. Her unwavering pain and accusations destabilize him, and he oscillates between rage and pleading, shouting against your laws before she takes her own life, only to cry, "Oh, you don't know what a paradise I should have built for you." This illustrates his disorientation. He treats her life as something he could grant or revoke, revealing the core of his obsession with control. Even as she visits another man and undermines his secrets, he maintains a facade of calm. Yet internally, he unravels. "It's mad," he exclaims, acknowledging that her suffering is the direct result of his own actions. He wanders in grief, caught between despair and anger, questioning the meaning of love. Men love one another. Who said that? His sense of connection is destroyed, exposing the extreme narcissistic injury that occurs when dominance is lost. When she falls ill, he shows affection, watching over her and begging her to speak, but even this last-minute care is colored by self-interest. He kisses her feet and promises to change, interpreting the act as proof of his humility and suffering. She saw it and began laughing from embarrassment. Every reaction is filtered through his ego, turning even compassion into a performance of martyrdom. After her death, he retreats into fantasies and self-centered lament. "It wouldn't have made any difference to me. Fall in love if you wish.